What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of BR's Draft Board Show. I'm Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus, and now that we have the finalized draft order for the 2026 NFL Draft for the non-playoff teams, we had to bring it to you with a mock draft. So we're going to go through a top 10. We're not going to go through a full first-round mock draft. Maybe we'll run one of those over the next couple of months before we get to draft day. But we're going to focus on the top 10, specifically those teams that are going to set the tone, right? A lot of times that answers the question of the quarterback conversation, which we're going to talk about plenty here now that we know that finalized draft order and we see some of those teams that need quarterbacks, how that's going to determine what happens throughout the top 5, the top 10, and then we'll also, after we get through the top 10, sort of talk about the ripple effects of what these players to these teams mean. So, of course, free agency still has to happen, so there's going to be some roster turnover here and there, but the way that I see it, there's a lot of team needs that have certainly manifested already for a lot of these teams, especially those that were bad enough to be picking in the top 10. So let's get into it. Let's dig through this top 10 overall mock draft here for the 2026 NFL Draft, starting with the team that earned, unfortunately, the number 1 overall pick, and that is the Las Vegas Raiders. They beat out the New York Giants, and by that I mean that they lost to the Giants 2 weeks ago for the right to have this number 1 overall selection. Now, if you want me to be honest with you, I think the obvious choice here is Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner from Indiana. However, we've talked over the last couple of weeks here on this program so many times about Fernando Mendoza going to the Las Vegas Raiders. So what if Dante Moore actually went number 1 overall? How does that change things? I know some people that actually like Dante Moore maybe a little bit more than Fernando Mendoza, and we could talk about why right here. So let's have Dante Moore. Let's say we get to these college football playoffs games in a couple of days, and we have Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore going head-to-head, and Dante Moore actually looks phenomenal. There's a world that could happen because he has been so good throughout this entire season. And what's been so good about him? Efficiency, touch, accuracy. The way he has grown in how he sees the field, and specifically that pinpoint ball placement from him this year as just a first-time starter, it's been really, really impressive. So again, in all likelihood, it's probably going to be Fernando Mendoza, but I wanted to have the conversation of Dante Moore going number 1 overall and just why that might happen and how it might change things here. So in order to do that, you guys see some of the PFF numbers that we have on the screen, just an incredibly efficient player. You see the adjusted completion percentage, his overall passing grade. I mean, these are elite numbers from Dante Moore. We're not just talking about like an okay quarterback. He has been elite at how he has been able to distribute the football this season. So there's a play that I sort of wanted to highlight and to show you guys when it comes to Dante Moore and why I think he's in this conversation to be the first quarterback taken here. And for this, let's go to the college football playoff game and let's look at him versus Texas Tech. Yes, he struggled a little bit under pressure because Texas Tech has one of the best defensive lines in the country. And so I think everybody would probably struggle under pressure with Texas Tech. But this is a situation where I wanted to point out it's not just that he's an accurate quarterback. It's that this year he has shown he's got get out of trouble type of ball placement. And this was one of the examples of that being the case. So in this scenario, just to set this up for you, this is 4th and 2. So they really need it. It's not, do or die point in the game. This is in the first half, but this is a 4th and 2 situation. You're looking at 7th tone. You really need to convert. What we have here is a slant and then a flat combination here. So what these guys are doing, you're putting these defenders in conflict. This guy and this guy, you're trying to put them in conflict here. And let me get rid of that scribble there. So what you're really trying to do is you see that this is man coverage. I'll let the play go. So you see this guy, he is deadlocked onto this receiver. So Dante Moore, he's been scanning the field. He knows that this is man coverage that he has everywhere. Man coverage, man coverage, man coverage. The issue is that the play is built for him to immediately look left because he wants to put these guys in conflict. This is the again, the slant route and then this flat route that's kind of coming this way. So the problem is you got Jacob Rodriguez right here. And you don't really have advantageous numbers. And what I mean by that is you've got 1 defender, 2 defenders, and then 3 defenders because Jacob Rodriguez is going to come this way a little bit. And you only have 2 receiving options. You never want to play where the math isn't in your favor. And so that makes this throw really hard. Ideally, with this setup from the defense, you would probably want to hit this slant route because it gives you a better chance for this wide receiver to get across the face of this defensive back. And I think that this is just a more in rhythm throw that you could have for Dante Moore to go straight here is where he would eventually want to go with the football. But the problem is that you'll see Jacob Rodriguez come this way. And so he'll get right in front of where that throwing lane is. So then, because it's 4th and 2, because he's facing the best defensive line in the country, and he knows that he doesn't have a lot of he can't do a full field read. He can't go to the other side of the line of scrimmage because he didn't really assess that pre-snap. And the defensive line will probably get to you if he ended up doing that. He knows he has to throw this out route here. Look at the window that he has. I mean, it is truly the size of a football for him to hit Kenyon Sadiq. This guy's all over him. And yet the ball placement was so perfect that he was able to actually get that ball in there away from the defender. Here, let's watch it a little bit slower. Let's watch it at half speed so you can kind of take in everything that I was saying there. Watch, Jacob Rodriguez will come this way. Again, this defender will go with him here, and then this defender is going to cut this way when Kenyon Sadiq comes this way. So watch it half speed here, and you will just appreciate the true ball placement that Dante Moore has here. That's get out of trouble type of accuracy from Dante Moore. And that is why I think you could at least entertain him being one of the top quarterbacks in this draft, maybe even the top quarterback in the draft. So we'll see. Fun one, Oregon versus Indiana coming up in the college football playoff. We'll have a lot of fun with that one. And now that the New York Jets pick at number 2 overall in this mock draft, well, whoever was not going to go number 1 is going to go number 2. We're going to have Fernando Mendoza going number 2 overall to the New York Jets here because, quite frankly, they just need a quarterback. And they have a lot of first-round picks over the next 2 years, right? They have the 2 this year because they have Indianapolis's, and then they have 3 next year. They have Dallas's, they have Indy's again, and then, of course, they have their own. So they have plenty of first-round picks to work with, and they're not in a situation where they have to tell themselves, okay, we have to take this quarterback here. But it would be a great strategy for them if they had a quarterback that they really believed in. And Fernando Mendoza just has so many impressive throws on tape throughout this season. You see some of the numbers, again, the PFF numbers that you see on the screen, which you guys can see all of this stuff if you have a PFF Plus subscription. You see the intermediate passing grade, you see the deep passing grade from him, the play under pressure. It's really good stuff for Fernando Mendoza. Obviously, it's a duh. He won the Heisman Trophy. So this is the caliber of a player that I think that you find a lot of confidence in if you're drafting him number 1 or number 2 overall to build a team around. Is he as toolsy? Is he as number 1 worthy as, say, Joe Burrow or Caleb Williams or like any of some of those guys? No, but I still think this is a franchise caliber type of a quarterback who can win you games, big games at the NFL level. So let's take a look at one of his plays that he had against Alabama in the college football playoff. And this to me is something that I love a lot about Fernando Mendoza, and that is deep ball accuracy. When you get throws like this in college football specifically, you kind of get worried that the ball is not going to be thrown exactly where it needs to. And yet every single time that Fernando Mendoza has these passes of 20 or 25 more yards, not every single time, but you guys know what I mean, more often than not, the ball placement just seems perfect. It feels as though he's not super tense. He's not like, oh boy, this is a big moment, I better not screw it up. Like, there's none of that with him. He's very relaxed. He just executes. So for this play here, it's just going to be a vertical route here from Elijah Surratt, who's at the bottom of the screen, and he's gonna eat up the cushion here against this corner, and then he's going to go to the outside, and he's going to get open. But Elijah Surratt's not the fastest wide receiver in the world, and with that, this corner has a little bit of a ability to catch up. He doesn't totally when he gets to the end zone, but look at where the ball placement is. Regardless of the fact that Elijah Surratt actually creates a little bit more cushion than maybe you'd expect because he's not the fastest wide receiver out there, this ball placement would have given him a chance to score this touchdown even if the defender was in his hip pocket. So just watch the accuracy that he has here. By the way, this is 3rd and 1. This is a 3rd and 1 throw, and he goes, first down? Nah, we're going deep. We're getting a touchdown here. So you see the separation that he creates. So he's got He's got that cushion between him and the defender. But that ball is thrown in a way where even if this guy was even a little bit closer, even if he would have gotten his hand up right here, he's not getting to this football. And I just think that that's so impressive from Fernando Mendoza is that when we have these plays from him, there's no panic. He's not playing tight. He's not playing nervous. He's just delivering the ball exactly where it needs to go. And so another beautiful deep pass for Fernando Mendoza, who it's been a season of those from him. That's the kind of play, how confident, how calm he is, of why you would have confidence with him, not just certainly being number 2 to the New York Jets here. I'm sure that they would love it, but I'm not so sure he gets past the Raiders at number 1. So like we said at the top, I wanted to set up a little bit different of a scenario because so many times we've already talked Fernando Mendoza going number 1 overall. But I do think that it was worth pointing out how well Dante Moore has played, how good his accuracy is. But then, of course, that Fernando Mendoza, his floor is number 2 overall in this draft. Got some people in the chat saying, guess we'll find out on Friday night who the better QB is. Well, QB doesn't play the QB, but I know exactly what you're saying. I'm very excited the fact that we get these two quarterbacks going up against each other. Stakes couldn't be higher. Well, I guess they could technically be higher. It could be for the national championship, but almost could not be higher. This is the next step down from that. So these two quarterbacks are going to have to be the ones to lead the team. So I'm very excited. Wink in the chat saying I wouldn't mind either one of these two, Moore or Mendoza. And I think that, again, just goes into the conversation that we've had here with these two guys. Money in the chat saying, are Mendoza and Moore even on the same level as Caleb Williams, Drake May, or Bo Nix? Get real, the Raiders should 1,000% trade back. I cannot agree with that notion there because I do think that both of these guys, like I said, I don't think they're the caliber that Caleb Williams and Drake May were, but you can only draft the players that are in your draft class. And I don't think that these guys are, I don't think that it's such a down quarterback class that they're not worthy of a top pick. I think that both of these players are really, really good quarterbacks. And we're seeing it in the NFL. You don't have to be the elite of the elite quarterback. Now, does it help? Of course it does. But there's plenty of quarterbacks that are playing even in the postseason right now that I think that you can win with them. You can absolutely win with these guys. And that's, I think, the point here is that, but unless you tell me the Raiders have a better plan at quarterback, I'm going to keep drafting a quarterback to them at number 1 overall. Geno Smith, clearly, I liked the Geno Smith signing. I really did. But he's not the answer for them. You cannot go into next season with him being the starter. And if you have the number 1 overall pick, you're really going to punt it to next year with a quarterback? Like bring in a veteran or like a Malik Willis, maybe. Like I don't know. Like I cannot be on board with not drafting one of these two quarterbacks if you're the Raiders. You have to reset it. You have to try to get that rookie contract window, and you got to hope that you're hitting it big with either of these guys. So again, are they Caleb Williams? Are they Joe Burrow? No, but they're certainly good enough to where you feel good about drafting one of these guys, number 1 and even number 2 overall. Let's go to number 3. So the Arizona Cardinals are at number 3. They're also going to need a quarterback. It looks like it's not a matter of if, it's just when they're going to move on and how, really, from Kyler Murray. And with that being the case, sure, they could keep Jacoby Brissett around, but what are you just going to go through another year of sort of what we got in the second half of this season? No, you're not going to do that. They're going to get another quarterback in there somehow. But it's tough after these top 2. I know Ty Simpson declared for the draft, and he's going to be, somebody we're going to talk about in the first round. I'll talk about him a little bit after we talk about these top 10 guys, but I don't think you force it after these 2 quarterbacks. Okay, I'll agree with the chat that we had a couple of minutes ago. I don't think you force it after Fernando Mendoza and Dante Moore. And that's why I have the Cardinals drafting offensive line. It's not the greatest offensive line class, but man, until they hit free agency and tell me that they've got a better plan, you've got a hole at right tackle. Jonah Williams is going to be a free agent. He wasn't very good this past year anyways. The interior offensive line wasn't very good. It's basically just Paris Johnson Jr. who's been good for him. So Spencer Fano, the offensive tackle from Utah, he is my pick here for the Arizona Cardinals. Now we're in a situation where I kind of wanted to just talk about this prospect and team pairing. But in reality, Monty Ossenfort, their general manager, we know that he is down to wheel and deal. So he could absolutely trade down in this draft to somebody who maybe wants to trade up for a Reuben Bain, an Arvell Reese, a Caleb Downs, whoever it is, and you might be able to move down a couple of spots and still be able to get your guy here, which is exactly what he did with Paris Johnson Jr. a couple of drafts ago. But I really like Spencer Fano for them because he's a natural right tackle. He played right tackle at Utah, and it's the athleticism that you can build around that really gets me excited with him. You see some of those grades. He's got good run blocking grades this year. He had elite run blocking grades last year. Pretty good pass protector as well. And this is why. Let's go to this game earlier this season where they were playing Baylor, and he's the right tackle here. So he's not playing left tackle, but that's okay because the Cardinals, they would need a natural right tackle. So he's at right tackle, and you'll watch this play and you'll be like, all right, what happened here? Well, I'll tell you what happened before we hit play, because it's kind of a nothing play. If you were just watching this game on a broadcast with your buddies, I don't know, maybe turn and look at your phone, or you grab another handful of chips or something. Like, this is kind of a nothing play here. But watch his feet. Watch how athletic he is. He gets his arms up and into the chest of the defensive lineman. He stays in front of him, and he's able to mirror because of how well balanced he is and how quick he is on his feet. He is an athlete for an offensive tackle. So just watch this play here. I'll cut it to half speed. I'll cut it to half speed here for you. And so we can appreciate just the feet and how they are moving. Okay, so it's just boom, staying in front of him the whole time. Mirrored. Okay, I'm going to the right. Okay, now I'm trying to go to the left. All right, now I'm trying to break your arms. And the whole time, I mean, this is a 4.5 second play, and he stays in front of him the whole time. Let's try to go at regular speed as well, so you could just see how it. Just look at the footwork, the balance. The foot never loses balance, stays with him, is able to mirror. That's the kind of athleticism that I like building around. So again, a play that if you watch it, nobody's getting anything on the stat sheet for that one, but it showcases the balance and the athleticism and the flexibility that Spencer Fano has that I think the Arizona Cardinals would love. Let's go to the Tennessee Titans next at number 4. So the Titans, I got really good production out of T'Vondre Sweat. They got really good production out of Jeffrey Simmons, who had a career year, but they still need an edge rusher who could be a big-time difference maker for them. If they want to stick to the idea of building the beef up front, Ruben Bain Jr. on this defensive line would be so tough to handle. You put those two guys and now Ruben Bain Jr. on the same defensive line, that's a whole lot of strength, and that's a whole lot of dudes to be able to handle there for even a 5-man protection because of what those guys can do and how athletic they are. You know, T'Vondre Sweat, people talked about his overall size, but it's that quickness and explosiveness that he has at that size. Jeffrey Simmons, we already know how explosive he is. Ruben Bain Jr., he's the same thing. He can play 3 technique for you. He can play as a 4-eye. He can play as a 5 technique. He could even be a stand-up outside linebacker type of edge rusher. And so to form that trio on the defensive line, to me, that would be really tough for any offensive line to be able to handle. Oh, I totally forgot. Actually, I actually gave them this is on me. The graphics team just let me know this. That is one of the mock draft picks that I've made. I think that I did that in my written mock draft a little bit earlier. David Bailey is actually who I went with here for the Titans because I wanted to talk about him. So Bain, everything I said, I stick by. If they went with Ruben Bain Jr., I think that could make a lot of sense for them. But if they wanted to go a different direction, David Bailey, I forgot I wanted to highlight what he could be in this defensive scheme. That's on me. That's not on the graphics team. The graphics team did their job there. That one's on me. But David Bailey, man, we saw what he was able to do this entire season, what he did at Stanford, what he did in the college football playoff. Man, he was phenomenal. And when you talk about first step explosiveness, this guy absolutely has it in a way where most other players in all of college football, maybe anybody in all of college football, he is a head and shoulders above the rest. So that first step explosiveness, that flexibility, and this is the play that I wanted to shout out from him. Watch him as the edge rusher here going up against the left tackle. So this is the Oregon game. This is a college football playoff. As you'll notice a theme here. I always want to point out these games that mean the most. So we've got David Bailey sitting here. Watch how quick he gets off the ball. And then he's got that fluidity and that flexibility to dip underneath Isaiah World's hands to just dip, bend, get straight back into the quarterback's lap. And Dante Moore gets rid of the ball really quickly. But man, if he held onto that ball for just a split second more, this would have been another sack. So let's watch it at full speed, and then we'll go half speed here, because you need to watch it at half speed, honestly, to appreciate just how incredible it is. So there's the first rep. We'll play it at full speed another time, just so you can see it, because I know it's really quick. That dip underneath the arms, man, that is a thing of beauty. That is pass rushing at its finest. So let's go half speed here so we can truly appreciate what we got going on. Watch the first step, his first step explosiveness, how much ground he's able to cover after that, how quickly he turns into that top gear speed and then getting around the outside shoulder and underneath the arms here of Isaiah World. Isaiah World doesn't even do that bad of a job getting into his kick slide, his vertical set. David Bailey is just a different beast. And so getting back to the Tennessee Titans defensive line, having those two big boys in the middle, they command a ton of attention. You know what that means? That means that limits how much slide protection you could do. That limits how much help that you can have. And when you get David Bailey one-on-one and he can attack that outside shoulders, there's a lot of success that's to be had there. So, like I said at the beginning, Ruben Bain would still be a good pick for them. But for this specific mock draft, we were switching it up. And I forgot, we were going with David Bailey to give them more of that stand-up outside linebacker pass rush presence. Although, of course, it kind of depends what their coaching situation is going to be like. Number 5, let's go to the New York Giants now sitting here at number 5. I'm going to stay along the offensive line. Again, for the sake of switching it up, we've talked about wide receiver a lot for the New York Giants. We've talked about Jordan Tyson. We've talked about Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, good options for them in the passing game. But I think they could improve at the offensive line spot, especially if they don't bring back Jermaine Illuminor. I went with offensive tackle Francis Mauigoa from Miami here in this spot. And I get it. The offensive line, it's not really touted. You know, it's not a Joe Alt, a Penei Sewell, kind of the way that we talked about these quarterbacks. But that just sounds a little disrespectful to just how steady, solid, and impactful of a year Francis Mauigoa has had. So if they even bring back Jermaine Illuminor, I think there's reason for Francis Mauigoa to be able to start his career at guard and be able to kick out to offensive tackle. But he has been such an important part of why Miami is where they are here in the college football playoff and why Carson Beck has the time to be able to dissect defenses is because this guy's just been rock solid. I mean, there's no way around it. He is built like an NFL offensive lineman. He's got a little bit bigger of a body. He's a little bit thicker in the frame when it comes to the midsection and with his chest. But so people look at him, they go, this is a guard. Well, his feet move really well, and it gives me the reason to believe that he could be an offensive tackle, especially for a team that likes a downhill run game. So here, watch this rep against Ohio State, once again, in the college football playoff here. He's right here. He's the right tackle as well. So you're going to see, watch this foot right here, and how quickly, when the ball is snapped, he is just, boom, into his slide, and he's able to get strong with his base again. You're going to notice then he is going to be the one who's going to dictate contact with a solid punch to the midsection of this defensive end, and then watch his ability to anchor, to neutralize this player's speed to power bull rush. Not only does he anchor and neutralize that very quickly, he even tosses this dude to the side. The second he realizes this guy's got no momentum and no power to him left, boom, you're hitting the ground. So watch this play here. You'll see. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go half speed on this one. Let's start at half speed because I want you to appreciate the foot speed and the explosiveness that he has out of his stance. I want you to see that punch to dictate the contact here, and then I want you to see him anchor up and be able to throw this guy down. So at half speed here, boom, you see how quick that foot is. He dictates the contact there, getting into the middle of the chest of that defensive lineman, and then, like I said, right when he neutralizes him and he's got no power left, he just tosses him straight to the ground. And if you let the play go a little bit further after that, he even buries him all the way to the ground. So you love that mentality that he has there. So for the Giants, I think that offensive line should still be on the table. It's a popular pick to say wide receiver and playmaker, but quite frankly, you can get wide receiver anywhere in the draft. I don't know if you can get the offensive lineman caliber Francis Mauigoa, especially for how solid he has been this season. Somebody in the chat saying you had it right for the first time with Bain over Bailey for the Titans. Like I said, I think I've made that one the most. That's why in my head I just went straight to Ruben Bain. But man, if you want a stand-up outside linebacker type, that's why I wanted to explore, hey, they've got those two great interior defensive linemen already. You put David Bailey in a situation where he's one-on-one with a lot of those guys, you still feel pretty good about it. Back half of the top 10. Cleveland Browns here at number 6 overall. We are going with a playmaker here for the Cleveland Browns because I would have entertained offensive line, but both of the offensive linemen I would have thought about in Mauigoa and Fano are off the board. So let's go to wide receiver. Let's go to Jordan Tyson. He is my number 1 wide receiver in this class, and really the only thing holding him back, in my opinion, from being a top 10 caliber pick is the injury history from him. He tore his ACL his freshman year when he was at Colorado. He was recovering from that ACL the following year. Then he had some hamstring and collarbone issues over the last 2 years while he was at Arizona State. But when he is on the field, there are some plays and just an overall playmaker's mentality that reminds you of an Odell Beckham Jr. I don't know if that's going to be my official comp for him because that is high praise because Odell is just one of the best athletes of the position over the last couple of decades. But I think that there are moments when he reminds me of what Odell could do and how good he was at LSU, how good he was for the Giants. This is a true playmaker that you can lean into. You see some really good numbers there, the PFF scores, receiving numbers in the 80s, especially against man coverage. I mean, this guy, he owns man coverage. He is somebody who one-on-one, you like your chances. You like him against any cornerback in the country, and I think that could be the case at the NFL level as well. Let's go on to our next team, the Washington Commanders. So this is where we talk about safety and the value of how highly you draft a safety, because I'm taking Caleb Downs off the board for them here at number 7. I think this is a change the math type of a defensive player. And when you look at Washington, their defense was so poor this year. They need improved pass rush. They need better coverage from their linebackers. They need outside corner help, but they need safety help as well. And when that's the case, just give me the best player available. Just give me one of the best players in the draft. I'm all in on Caleb Downs being a top 10 overall pick. I could even, hear him as a top 5 overall pick. That's how good he is. This is somebody who could play free safety for you. He could play in robber roles. He could play as that slot defender. He can match up against tight ends. He can match up against smaller cornerbacks as well. The football IQ, the experience playing in the Nick Saban defense and then going straight to Ohio State as well. So much that he brings to the table will elevate the rest of that Washington Commanders defense. And they're not one defensive player away, but this does become their cornerstone, in my opinion. This becomes a player that you could build the entire rest of the defense around. And 1 year, okay, well, you might need him to play free safety for you more 1 year. All right, great. Well, you might need him to play slot more for you 1 year. Okay, fine. You might need him to be that second level defender, middle of the field level defender. He can do it. So however Washington wants to build their defense over the next 2 years, because it's going to be a multi-year rebuild for that side of the ball, this guy fits in, and he fits in so well. He's unbelievable. I love him. Back to the chat, Big Junior asking, is Tyson the consensus best wide receiver, or is it Tate? Injury aside, I think most people would tell you that it's Jordan Tyson, injury history aside. But if you get people who are building their big boards, taking into account availability and durability and things like that, then I would tell you that Tate is, because he's just been much more durable. He's more reliable with his hands as well. Not that Tyson doesn't have great hands. He does. But, I mean, Colonel Tate has 0% drop rate this year, and his contested catch rate was unbelievable. So I think that you'll talk. I don't think answering the question of consensus, I just don't know if there is a consensus. Shoot, you'll have people who might have Mekhi Lemon as their top wide receiver in this draft. So I think that it's just a conversation between all three of those guys there. Number 8, the New Orleans Saints. Next on the mock draft, I'm going to take Arvell Reese here for them because I think they need to get younger and a little bit more explosive at the second level and just edge rush spots. Chase Young had a fantastic year for the New Orleans Saints, but Arvell Reese, man, he could be a linebacker level player for you. He could be an edge rusher. I think he's going to be best as an edge rusher at the NFL level. But he's got the athleticism to be able to do it all. He's got the build to be able to do it all as well. You see very solid PFF grades across the board for him. 74.4 overall grade, 72.0 pass rush grade, good run defense grade there for him. But it's going to be the same conversation that we had with Jalen Walker last year coming out of Georgia. Is he an edge defender? Is he a linebacker? Again, I think he's more of an edge rusher, but the Saints have been really creative in how they have used defensive players over the years, first with Dennis Allen, and now they're still doing that with Brandon Staley. I think that Arvell Reese is just that athlete that you want on the defense, and I think he's got a lot of untapped potential. If you let him just hone in on being an edge rusher first, I think that you're going to love the return on investment that you're going to get from him. I think he's absolutely the kind of player that you draft and develop and could be an all-pro for you 1 year. Number 9, the Kansas City Chiefs. They are next here, and this is actually where I'm going to have Reuben Bain Jr. come off the board. When I think of Steve Spagnuolo's defenses, and I've had some people talk to me about like Arvell Reese potentially in there for the Kansas City Chiefs if he makes it all the way to number 9. And I look at the types of players that Spags has on his defensive line. 255 pounds is basically the lightest that you are. And Arvell Reese is like 240, 245. Spags likes his dudes to have some weight on him on the defensive line. He's, 260, 265, 270. That's what you got to weigh to play on the defensive line for a Steve Spagnuolo defense. They need edge rush help opposite George Karlaftis and with George Karlaftis. And this is the type of player that they always gravitate towards because they like to be flexible in where they line these guys up. Karlaftis could be inside or outside. Now Ruben Bain could as well. So yes, Jeremiah Love's still on the board, the running back from Notre Dame, and you could go that direction here, but we do that a lot. And I don't think we've seen this pairing, at least I haven't, very often between Ruben Bain Jr. And the Kansas City Chiefs. But I really do think, and the reason why I wanted to point it out, I think he is the perfect Steve Spagnuolo type of defensive lineman, especially if they maybe lose Leo Chenal in free agency. If they lose him, I think they really need a player like this. So Bain is going to be high on their board because of how Spags likes to play defense, how fluid he likes to be with his defensive linemen, and Ruben Bain gives you the ability to do so much of that. He has been phenomenal, and he's been really catching fire this postseason as well, which has been great to see. The last pick at number 10 overall, Cincinnati Bengals, and Caleb Downs is off in the pick here. Arville Reese could be a pick here. Peter Woods is sometimes a selection here. I'm actually going to go a different direction. I'm going to go with Ohio State defensive tackle Caden McDonald. And the reason why is because I think the Bengals have been searching for an impact defensive tackle since Geno Atkins. They haven't been able to acquire what DJ Reader was for a little bit, but obviously he's not on the team anymore. The Bengals gave up the most rushing yards per game of any team in the NFL. Caden McDonald, one of the best defensive linemen in the entire country, one of the best run defenders, period, in the country. 91.2 overall run defense grade this season, 13.8 solo run stop percentage. That's crazy high stuff. He is a tone setter in the middle. He is somebody that you could build the rest of the defensive line around. And with the edge rushers playing a little bit better, and you're hoping that you're getting Trey Hendrickson back. I don't know what's going to happen with that situation, but ideally you're hoping that you got Miles Murphy and Shamar Stewart and Trey Hendrickson. You need somebody in the middle to hold it down. You've got to be able to be a lot better against the run. And so, yes, Peter Woods is on the board, could be the selection here. I mentioned that they'll certainly entertain Caleb Downs if he gets to number 10, but I think Caden McDonald's a sneaky pick here for the Bengals. Perhaps they could even trade down for number 10 and still get this guy a couple of picks later, but he absolutely should be on their radar. A couple more comments from the chat. If Downs is there at 5, Giants got to take him in a heartbeat. I don't know if the Giants would take him because they have Javon Holland, who they signed last free agency. They have Tyler Nubin, and Nubin hasn't been as good as I thought he would be. I just don't know if the Giants would take him at 5. There's so much talent on that defense that I feel as though they just need a new defensive coach, a new defensive mind to sort of give them a new direction. Because this year it was way too it was way too inconsistent for the talent level that the Giants defense had. Chris in the chat saying, imagine Bain with Chris Jones, Norman Lott, and Karlaftis. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm saying. That is scary of a defensive line, especially if they bring Leo Chenal back. You don't know where pressure's coming from. And I cannot believe that there's many 5 offensive lines in the NFL that can really handle that kind of pressure. So you're getting a lot better on the defensive line. That's what we're talking about there with adding that. Wow, McDonald over Peter Woods. What do you like about him more than Woods? I just like the overall run defense. Like, this is a you know what you get type of a player. And Woods is also good at run defense. I would say that Woods is certainly a much better pass rusher than Caden McDonald is. So if you're roping in pass rush potential in there as well, McDonald doesn't give you what Peter Woods does, but it's an emphasis on stopping the run, on being that anchor, that fire hydrant, that boulder in the middle of that defensive line. So, like I said, you think about Peter Woods. I've mocked Peter Woods to the Cincinnati Bengals plenty of times, but I really wanted to throw this name out there to say, hey, think about it here. Because you got to be a lot better than dead last at run defense like you were this past season going into next year to hopefully make the postseason and have a good run there. Really quickly, I just want to talk about Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson, the quarterback from Alabama, ended up declaring for the draft. I did not think that he was going to. I thought that he was going to likely transfer to a different school because Alabama's got a stud that's kind of sitting and waiting, and you know how it goes. If you don't let that guy play, they're going to leave, and they're going to get NIL money somewhere else. And so I always kind of figured that Simpson wasn't going to come back to Alabama, but he's only got 15 starts. And the NFL really doesn't love drafting guys who just don't have a ton of starts, especially ones that struggle under pressure. And that's the big issue for Ty Simpson. His worst passing grades came under pressure this year. And I thought he needed more reps. I thought he could have put his best foot forward next year if he would have transferred somewhere else and really been a solid quarterback for next year's class. But people look at next year's class and they say, man, the quarterback class could be loaded for them next year. And so is he just capitalizing on a weaker quarterback class? That's what I think is happening here. Maybe the Rams sitting there at 13. Do you consider him? Pittsburgh Steelers at 21, depending on what they think of Will Howard, obviously. And then once you get to the second round, I mean, all bets are off. Any team could draft a quarterback because I think Ty Simpson is talented. I think he could be a starting quarterback in the NFL. We really just struggled in the second half of the season when better defenses were throwing a lot of stuff at him that he was not ready for. I understand the run game didn't help him out a lot this year, and it was not all on him. I just would have liked to see him transfer. I would have liked to see him get another full year of starting under his belt and really be in a much better place to boast what he could do at the NFL level for the 2027 draft. Would it mean that he might have been drafted a little bit later? Maybe so, but I think you would have been putting yourself in a better situation to start your NFL career than what might happen depending on what team he ends up going to. With our Microsoft Surface, we asked Microsoft Copilot, over the last 5 years, which drafts have had the most quarterbacks selected? Last year, we had 13. The year before, we had 11. The year before, that's the one with the most, 14. And then 9 and 10 in 2022 and 2021. But the 2024 NFL draft, of course, had those 6 quarterbacks that ended up going in the first round. So not as much overall as the 2 drafts, one in front and one behind them, but the most first-round quarterbacks, which was tying the record from 1983. So that was an exciting class. Obviously, that was the Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jane Daniels, and Bo Nix, and all those guys. And so they're obviously already some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah, that's it for me this episode, though. That's our top 5 mock draft that we had there. Like I said, maybe we could speed run a full mock draft, or maybe I want to have to talk to the people at BR, see if we can extend the show from 30 minutes to an hour, maybe get you guys a full first round mock draft at some point over the next couple of weeks and months once we get the full solidified draft order. But that was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. If you guys want to see all those numbers that you saw on the screen for yourself, do some more research when it comes to these draft prospects. Get a PFF Plus subscription, holiday 30% off promo code going on right now. I'm just saying. So you can see all that and so much more throughout all of draft season and then even going into next season as well. Once again, I'm Trevor Sikkema from Pro Football Focus saying thank you guys so much for watching another episode of BR Draft Board Show. See you guys next week.